Great Tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to make a PHP survey, poll style, test style questionnaire. Ignore these errors here because I just deleted the database just so that we could recreate it in this tutorial. But this is kind of like the general structure that we're going to be getting. We're going to be having the question, then the 4 answers, a vote button, and then the results off to this side here. This, if you're like for statistical reasons, this might try to sway the user into clicking one of these, so if possible I think you should delete this. Anyways, let's get into the actual tutorial. So open up your editor and let's begin. Just get my notes out here. Alright, so we have our PHP tags. Now we want to get into a database. I'm thinking that I'm going to actually just make the database connections right now, and then we can get into actually making the database. So let me just do this. Oh, and I'm running my database on WOM server, Windows Apache PHP server. I think that's what the what it stands for. Anyways, so I have a localhost as my server running, so just like 127.0.01. Yeah. So once I get these connection things done, I will begin showing you the actual PHP admin. Alright, so let me just explain this. Connect, so we're connecting to localhost, user, and then password 123. There is a MySQL option. Never used it before, but it's possible. MySQL select database, selecting the database. I have a database that we're going to make. It would just tut, and then pass a connection to this. Okay, so let's go to the PHP my admin. And over here I've already made a database. If you haven't made a database, just type in the database name, collation, type in, or select Unicode. So we click on tut as our database here. I'm going to make my table name poll, and I'm going to put 5 fields in there. And let me just decrease the size of the window here. There we go. So now I can click this go button. And then we are presented with 5 different fields here. So the first one here is going to be ID int. Let's scroll over a bit here. Default none. Attributes unsigned. Index primary, so we want this to be the primary key. And then AI is I'm thinking of artificial intelligence, but it's auto increment. Okay, so my next field here is going to be C1. Let's see, I've already done this. And we just basically copy the same thing here. Unsigned, 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 unsigned. Just jumping the gun there. But next is C2. And if you're wondering what the C is, I just thought C would be a good indicator for choice. So choice 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're all ints. Oh, I'm missing the lengths here, so I just put 5 here. So I highly doubt you're going to have more than 199 whatever amount of people taking your tutorial or your poll. And then collation here, you always put Unicode. My ISAM or NODB, any of those. Let me go save. And just in case you want to actually create this by PHP, you can just do this, copy paste this, delete the table, put this in your PHP, and actually you can click create PHP code, and you can do that on your own. Alright, so now we have our basic table set up here, so pull with the fields in here. So let's go back to our code. So first I'm actually going to use a function just to keep this kind of easier to look at. Can't be done without a function. Anyway, so we're going to have prompt here, questions, and since it is a function, it does not matter in what order. Like prompt doesn't have to be up here because it's going to be implemented somewhere else. And I'm going to put some HTML code in here. It might be a little tough to wonder why I'm putting a table in there, a table element TD, but we're going to get to that in a second. Form method equals post. Usually I have this in my tutorial where I'm just sitting here doing this, kind of retyping out all the HTML, and I think it would be a nice thing if you guys could give me some feedback on whether I should do this or just copy and paste, and you guys pause the tutorial, because it is kind of time consuming and it is something that anybody can just do. So please give me some feedback on that in case you're just sitting there wondering when this is going to be over. But I'm just going to do it again today and see if I get any feedback. Alright, so now we're going into a for loop here. Questions. We're going to increment the I, which is initialized in the beginning of that for loop. And then we are going to actually use the for loop here. So, right here we're going to be echoing out the choices for the selections. So we're going to be using this label here, so when they select the thing here, they can just click on this instead of having to select this little circle. They can click on this. So that's a nice little enhancement. So we're going to be making the label input type equals radio for radio button, name, poll, value. We're going to make that value of the incrementer, which is the for loop I, and then we're going to close this out. Put the questions. This is going to be the corresponding textual version of the auto incrementer. Might be a little hard to understand that, but just imagine, once I'm done typing this out, I'll explain. Alright, so when we use the display poll method, we're going to be passing a prompt, which is like, what's your favorite coffee? And the questions are going to be the answers to that. So we're going to be looping through all the questions. We're going to be making a corresponding radio button with the index. It starts at 0, ends at 3. If we have 3 questions, 4 corresponds. Then we're going to pass the questions. So it's going to be like, oh, I like sugar in my coffee, so it'll go question sub-0, and then it'll be sugar. So it just represents that. Because I don't want to have to pass the value as textual, or else the speed of the process goes down. So, go back to the echo here, and we're going to start out the table. And these are actually these actually are not the results. This is an embedded table here. So input type equals submit. So this is going to be submitting our survey, and we're going to be making the value vote. And we're going to be closing that off. Actually, we're going to be closing the form off also. And then we're going to be closing off the tables there. TD table. And then this second TD can get a little bit confusing, but this is going to be the end of our second table. So just bear with me on the HTML here. And if it's getting confusing, you can just take it out, and then you don't have to have tables in there. It's just something that I want to make it look better with. So we're going to be using the first selection here. So selection 1 is going to be a MySQL selection. So we're going to do select all from poll, which is our table, which is located in this database that we declared here. So just make sure you have the correct table in there, where ID equals 1. So this is going to be the first question. So this one here is going to stay the same anytime we use the question. And if you have multiple questions, you make 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you have. So we're going to be making a process. I always just do select and then the process. I always use the process for the query here. So MySQL query selection 1. And then we're going to be using a while loop to retrieve the row information using the MySQL fetch array function. So let's do this real quick. And then inside the MySQL fetch array function, we're going to be adding the process 1 and then we're going to be passing the MySQL source forever variable, static, no, final variable, mixing some Java in there. Anyways, then we're going to make modified variables here. So I have mod c1 equals, and then cast the value to an int of the row that we're going to be retrieving from the database here. So in this case we're going to be retrieving c1, which corresponds to the value of the table. So if we go back to here, back to poll, and I think if I go structure, anyways, so these values here correspond to whatever's in the database there. So we have 1, 2, 3. Actually, let me just copy paste all this, just to expedite the process. Actually, this would be 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the end of our while loop there, retrieving information. Then we're going to be making a choices array, which is going to be our choices to whatever the past prompt is. And what I was meaning earlier by adding the prompt and choices, they don't have to be above here, because we're going to be implementing this function below wherever we implement this choices. Not made any sense when I said that back then, but hopefully it does now. Now we're going to be passing Splenda. Actually, we're not passing anything. We're just adding Splenda into the array here. Cane sugar, and of course our option no sugar. Then we're going to be echoing some HTML, which I'm kind of hesitant to type out just because it'll take forever, but let me just put it up here. So I just got this out of my notes here. So we're retrieving these variables here from the database, mod c1 minus 1. I can't remember my logic why I subtracted 1 and then added 1 over here, but I think it was for an OBOB error. So, oh, and an OBOB error is an off by 1 bug, in case you didn't know. So yeah, I think this is, I think it made sense, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. Display poll, so this is actually where we're going to be implementing the function that we made above here. So let me just copy the question here, since it's not PHP related. Then we're going to be passing the choices along. And you can kind of see why I want to put a function in here, because it makes it just a little bit easier to implement. So now we're going to be using our post, not exactly what it's called, I think it's a variable. It has a name. So we're going to be seeing if that's set. So if it's set, meaning if the submit has been clicked, then we're going to be executing the below commands here. So we're going to be doing another checking. So if post poll is set also, so if if at least one of the little radio buttons are clicked, then we're going to retrieve that selection. And this doing this is set stuff, prevents runtime exceptions from being thrown, because if you're trying to retrieve a poll here that hasn't been initialized, never mind initiated. If it hasn't been initialized on the HTML form when it is being passed to the page, and we'll say, oh, where is that? It's not there. and it'll throw you an error. So this is just a real quick approach to avoid having to catch that error. Of course, you could just catch it and call it a day there, but why not prevent it? So we have the selection here, and this is in case that nothing was thrown, or nothing was posted by the user. Then it'll just set the selection to 0, and we're going to be checking to see if the selection is greater than 0. So the length of the selection. And if it is, then we're going to be using a switch statement here. And I think I'm just going to copy and paste this also because it's a little repetitive. I'm going to speed the process up here. Alright, so we have our selection that we got up here. Casting it to an int. I'm not sure if that's required. I think it probably is. Just trying to transfer from Java to PHP, so I have all this casting issue. So case 0, 1, 2, 3, these are the different choices. 0 being an array related number. So now we're going to be using the select statement for SQL. And in this case we're going to be using the update because when I'm not going to be using the insert because I'm going to be redoing the fields every time a selection is made. I'll explain that right now actually. So actually I can't find the thing yet. We need to put a something in there. But anyway, so C1 when a selection's made on here, this is 0, so that'll be case 0 right here. It will go to the poll table. It will look for the C1 data area. Then it'll take the mod C1, which is set up here, and it will insert it into the C1 area where the ID is equal to 1. So you can change this ID if you have more questions. And this occurs for all these different cases here. Alright, so next step here for this is actually very close to being finished. However, we need to make a process for these submits that we made here, or else they would be pretty much actually completely useless. So let's just actually execute them. Select stmd, and we can do an or die and just do like a MySQL error, but that's not needed. If the process, so actually MySQL query throws a Boolean value, so we can check and see if that Boolean value is thrown. If it is true, then we're going to give the user a pleasant message saying your vote has been casted. So let me just copy paste that. And if it has not been submitted correctly, or if there's an error, then we're going to display error, and then the user is going to be prompted again, I believe. Actually, I think the user can submit whatever they want to submit. That's not the whole objective of this. That comes after you make everything. So now we have the choices, which are the questions that are being asked. Then we're going to echo out the selection that was made based on the choices. And remember, the selections pass as an integer, so we're going to be doing choices, which are set right here. Going to be choices sub 0, choices sub 1, all the way up to 3. So depending upon what their choice was, it'll echo it back out. And then we're going to be setting an else statement here saying that you made no choice. And it's kind of hard to see what if statement that corresponded to, so let me just highlight this and go up. So it corresponded to this string length one, so if the selection is 0, it'll say you made no choice. I think I had that below the thing there. Anyways, that is the complete tutorial. Let me just see, I have some extra stuff there. Just save this and reset this page here. Looks like we're still encountering some issues. Save. I think this is on, oh, that's on the wrong, it's on the wrong page here. Sorry about that. Let me just copy it back. I'm just doing some extra stuff there. I actually left off on this tutorial 2 days ago and I just got back to it. So, alright, so should be working now. Back to the poll.php page, and it looks like we have another error on line 29. Oh, let's see one. Yeah, I think this is just a probably an issue that needs to be solved. Anyways, I had this working before. All I can say is that whenever you make the selection here and click vote, it'll increment regular sugar by 1, and you have an error. Anyways, hopefully when you guys do this, it'll work for you. Most likely will. Anyways, please go to techtutorials.com and subscribe. I'm going to be doing some more tutorials that were recommended, so please stick with it.